Hello and very welcome everyone to this session of Medieval History Part 3rd. In today's session, we are going to discuss some of the important events and things happened during the time of medieval history, and we will see what we can learn from this session and we can add into our notebooks. So let's start without wasting any time. Before we start, the images, text, and other materials used in our presentations are for educational purpose only. We respect the intellectual property rights of the original creators and owners. If you are the owner of and have any concerns or issues, please contact us at sathi@iitk.ac.in and we shall remove the same. So first, we have to discuss about the administration during the Delhi Sultanate period. So with the establishment of the Delhi Sultanate, a new ruling class emerged in India, and this new class introduced a new administrative system. And if we talk about Delhi Sultanate, so Delhi Sultanate we all know was started from 1206 and remained till 1526. And if we talk about most of the rulers of this particular Delhi Sultanate were Turkish, except particularly the Lodhis who were Afghani. And apart from that, do remember basically if we talk about the Delhi Sultanate, so Delhi Sultanate was started by Qutbuddin Aibak, and Iltutmish was the one who is known as the real founder of Delhi Sultanate. During the Sultanate period, the administrative apparatus was headed by the sultans, who was held by various nobles. And Sultan is also the one who took the title of Sultan from the Khalifa, who is a religious and political post of Islam at that time. There were various other offices along with the office of the Sultan. Theoretically, there was a council of ministers, Majlis-e-Khalwat, to assist the Sultan. So these are famously known as the Council of Ministers. So do remember this thing. This type of question may ask into your exam. That what is the name of the Council of Ministers? So they were basically known as Majlis e Khalwat, and they were there to assist the Sultan. And the first person who took the title of Sultan, remember, was Iltutmish. Then Sultanate administration is called as Turk-Afghan setup in the Indian environment. As I was saying, basically the most of the members were Turk. Like if we talk about the Ghulam dynasty, if we talk about the Khilji, if we talk about the Tughlaqs, major of them were Turk, and later if we talk about the Lodhis, so they were basically Afghani. So that is why the setup was Turko-Afghan. The sultans considered themselves as representatives of the caliph. As I was saying earlier, that sultan is a title that was taken from caliph or khalifa, which is a religious post and political post under the pan-Islamist countries. Iltutmish was the first sultan to receive recognition letter from caliph, as I was saying. So do remember, Iltutmish was the first person in Delhi Sultanate who took the title of sultan. Delhi Sultanate was neither a theocratic state nor a secular state. It was dependent on ruler. Yes, it is very clear, because there were different type of rulers and they have different type of ideologies. Like if we go if we go talking about Muhammad bin Tughlaq, so he was considered as a liberal one. He was a secular one. But if we go and talk about some other rulers like the Firuz Shah Tughlaq and Qutbuddin Aibak and Iltutmish, so they were basically aligned towards the ulemas. So we can say that neither a theocratic state nor a secular state it was. Mullahs were interpreters of Shariat. So Shariat, we all know, is a kind of a law that particularly makes a very important significance in Islamic state. And mullahs were the one who were made responsible to interpret the things that are written in Shariat. Qajis were executors of Shariat, and Qajis were basically the judges of this Shariat thing. So that is all related to the administration. Let's read further. Some other things related to the administration, guys. Now, Sultan, Nab, Sultan, and under Sultan comes the position called Nab or Wali. And under this, there are certain officers like Diwane Wazirat, and it was a finance minister. And do remember, the Diwane Wazirat is the name given to the finance minister of that time. Then comes Wazir, acted as the prime minister. So Wazir was the person who was particularly very famous name, and in chessboard also we use the name Wazir, and Wazir was acted as a prime minister of sultans. Then Diwane-Ers, that is defense minister. Diwane-Ers was a position or the particular department that was started by Balban. Remember that. Then Diwane Insha. Diwane basically means department. So Diwane Insha, Department of Correspondence. Then Diwane Rasalat, that is dealing with the diplomatic correspondence. That means with the foreign states and all. Then Judicial Department Chief was called Qazi. I hope you remember that Ibn Battuta was famously appointed as the Qazi of Delhi by Muhammad bin Tughlaq. So Qazi basically is the judicial post. That means a judge. So these are some of the positions that were given at that time, and they all work under the name of Sultan. Now let's read about some of the revenue systems that were introduced at that time and some of the systems that helped the Sultan to create a better governance in their state, and one of them was Ikta system. So Ikta system was one of a kind land distribution and administrative system that was implemented during the reign of Iltutmish. The territories of the Delhi Sultanate were split into various big and small areas called Ikta and distributed to the Sultan's troop officers and nobles under the Ikta system, and they were named as Iqtidars. So firstly, let me tell you about this Ikta system basically. So always remember that for every king, for every sultan, for every emperor in this world, one thing is really important, and that is that he must take care about any kind of rebellion happening against him. Rebel can be taking place by the people of his state, by the um, officers of his state, by the ministers of his state, so and by the generals of his army. So what the king can do, what a sultan can do about it? So Sultan used to do one thing, that he distributed iktas among the officers, among the generals, among the nobles. How it will help him to control them? So basically, every person who is working under him was ambitious, and they also wanted to become a king one day. So what the king used to do is to give them a land and a power to collect the revenue, and this will provide them a kind of a work in which they will get engaged. And on the other side, as per the position of the person, like if someone is a general, then the large amount of territory will be given, and if someone is at lower position, a low amount of territory will be given. So that will keep two things in their mind. One is they will get engaged in collecting the revenue and all that, and they will also feel that they have some position and they have some security and they have some kind of a rule in the rule of sultan. So that is the basic principle behind this Ikta system, and do remember it was introduced into India by the Iltutmish. Later, Ikta system became a hereditary system by Firoz Shah Tughlaq. That is really important, guys, because Firoz Shah Tughlaq was going through a lot of crisis after the death of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and that is why he introduced Ikta system as a hereditary system, so that the nobles, generals, and other ministers will remain loyal to Firoz Shah Tughlaq. Let's read about territorial administration now. So here we can see we have Delhi Sultanate. Then under Delhi Sultanate we have Sarkar, we have Sheikh, we have Pargana, and we have village. So these are the things that happened at that time. And territorial administration, do remember, let's revise once again. So we have Delhi Sultanate. Then under Delhi Sultanate we have Sarkar. Under Sarkar we have Sheikh. Under Sheikh we have Pargana. And under Pargana we have village. Sheikhs were controlled by Shikdars. Pargana were controlled by Amil. Villages were ruled by village chiefs. He is known as Mukadam, Chaudhary, and Khut. And Patwaris were village bookkeepers, which we also know today also is the same thing. The lands were classified into three categories. So that was basically the Ikta system, and under that, this is the classification of the land. But the nobles and the generals and all the other ones are called Iktadars, and they under them all these people work. Let's read more about it. ICTA land, lands assigned to officials as ICTA instead of payment of their services, as I was saying. So whatever revenue they are getting, a part of it will go into the treasury of Sultan, and a part of it they can keep at as a salary. Same kind of situation was also started, or same kind of thing was also started by Akbar later, and that system was known as Mansabdari system. I hope you remember. Then Khalisa land. The Sultan had directed authority over the land, and the income generated were used to support the royal court and royal family. So that was Khalisa land. And now Sultan had direct authority over the land, and the income generated were used to support the royal court only. So do remember the difference between Khalisa land and Ikta land. Ikta land is given to the troops, the generals. Khalisa is for the Sultan. Then Inam land, land assigned or granted to religious leaders or religious institutions. It is a very simple thing and is known as the Inam land, and it can be used for the providing religious education and also for providing the kind of a monetary help to the religious institutions. So these are different type of lands classified at that time. Now let's read about some of the economy during the Delhi Sultanate period, guys. So land revenue was a significant source of money for the government, and this is the only way through which at that time the major part of revenue can be generated. The peasantry paid 1/3 of their output as the land income and occasionally even half. So do remember one thing here, that when we read about the modern history, we read about the Britishers. So Britishers did not take a look during the starting time, during the expansion time. The only target they set was to collect more and more revenue. They never set the target of any kind of percentage or fraction of revenue that they want. But in the whole era of Delhi Sultanate and Mughal era, you will see that most of the time the taxations were remained below the par or the threshold of 1 by 3rd, that is 33%, and occasionally it will go to 50% at some type of situation like drought and other things, not drought and other things, but at certain type of festivals and other things, but never cross the mark of 33%. So that is the big difference between the medieval era and the modern era, and that is why in modern era you can see a lot of famine happen. Then agriculture formed the occupation of the bulk of the people, and that is why at that time, at those days, occupation this agriculture is a kind of a major occupation for the people of that time. The peasants produced a large variety of food crops, cash crops, fruits, vegetables, and spices. So this was another thing that was basically produced by the peasants at that time. The Persian wheel was the most advanced water lifting device of this period, and this was all done by the Persian wheel, and basically that was also under the part of irrigation, which was later also put under the taxation system. Cotton, textile, and silk industry flourished in this period. So you can see that most of the economy was based on land revenue, and other than that on the agricultural basis. During the reign of Delhi Sultans, paper making technology developed by the Chinese and learned by the Arabs was introduced to India. These karkhanas were part of the royal establishment. In the field of commerce, India had trade links with contemporary Central Asia, China, Southeast Asia, and Europe, etc. So here you can see and you can get a look at most of the economy that was basically doing so good at that time, and under the different type of sultans that were holding the things. Now let's read about some of the literature and languages during the Delhi Sultanate. So Persian became the official language of the Sultan of Delhi, and it remained during the time of Mughals also. To remember that Persian language was the court language of Mughals as well, and most of the books that were written during the time of Mughals as well was written in Persian language. Later it was changed to English language by the Lord Macaulay when he was introduced when he introduced the English education in India. With the works of Amir Khusro, the development of Persian literature on the subcontinent entered a new phase. Amir Khusro was famously known as the Parrot of India and also known as Toti-i-Hind, and his name was given to him by what should I say, the Alauddin Khilji. And Amir Khusro is famous for a lot of things. Firstly, he was the one who called this phrase that if there is heaven on earth, then it is in Kashmir. That was said in Persian language, obviously. He was the person who, you can say, kindly originate the Urdu language. And after that, he was also famous for introducing Qawwali into the music system of India. And after that, we talk about him. He introduced or invented tabla, and he modified sitar. And he was also famous for writing a particular drama and novels and a very different type of books. And also famous for one thing, that he was the one poet or one writer who saw three different empires in his lifetime. He came during the time of Ghulam dynasty, and after that he remained during the whole time of Khilji dynasty, and he also was there during the time of Tughlaq dynasty. So he was the person who saw the three different type of kingdoms during his tenure. One more thing that you can learn about Amir Khusro, that his teacher was Nizamuddin Aulia, and if we talk about Amir Khusro, so his grave, his particular tomb, you can find just beside his teacher, that is Nizamuddin Aulia. And if you ever visit Hazrat Nizamuddin Dargah in Delhi, so you can directly see the tomb of Amir Khusro as well. The court chronicles were an important feature of the literature during the period of Delhi Sultanate. So these are the very important things, because at that time it is very the type of an entertainment for the kings and sultans, and they were fond of these type of chronicles. So a lot of chronicles and lot of stories were being generated, and you can see them in different type of cartoon forms in today's world as well. During this time, Ziauddin Barani introduced the most significant contribution to Persian literature. His most noteworthy work are the Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi and Fatwa-e-Jahandari. So, Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi was again a book that is dedicated to Firoz Shah Tughlaq. And if we talk about Fatwa-e-Jahandari, so that was another book written regarding the customs and rituals. And do remember one more thing, that along with Tariq-e-Firoz Shahi, there was another book that was Futuhat-e-Firoz Shahi, and that was written by Firoz Shah Tughlaq himself. So Ziauddin Barani was in the court of Firoz Shah Tughlaq. By that thing, you can understand that. Ziauddin Barani was an outspoken opponent of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, and Ziauddin Barani was made the court poet of Firoz Shah Tughlaq as well. Minhaj-us-Siraz wrote Tabaqat-e-Nasari, a general history of Muslim dynasties up to 1260. Abu Bakr's Chachnama is the first geographical treatise ideals with the conquest of Sindh. So Chachnama is a book that is used to be said that it is written by Abu Bakr's. And do remember that Chachnama is the book that clearly tells us the story that how the first conquest of Sindh was done, and how the Muhammad bin Qasim defeated the king of Sindh, that was Dahir at that time, and took the major control of Sindh and Multan and the outskirts of Punjab region of India at that time. And this was famously also known as the Arab invasion, and was the only Arab invasion at that time. And after Muhammad bin Qasim, the only king or the only invader that entered into India was Mahmud Ghazni. But it took around 200 plus years for Mahmud Ghazni after the invasion of Muhammad bin Qasim to enter into India, because at the boundaries the Gurjar Pratihars were controlling the boundaries of Gujarat and Rajasthan at that time. During this period, there were many more works that were translated into Persian. The Tuti Nama, Book of the Parrot by Zia Naqshbandi, was a first Persian translation of Sanskrit stories. So these are some of the books that were translated as well. So I hope all these literature and languages are clear to all of you. Let's read further. So architecture during Delhi Sultanates, really important, guys. So during the medieval period, new architectural forms and styles were introduced in India. The fusion of Indian and Islamic architectural elements resulted in the birth of Indo-Islamic architecture. The arc and domes were new architectural additions to the period. So you must see that most of the things that you will find in Delhi these days that were created during the time of Delhi Sultanate, you can find them in the form of arc and domes structure only. So that is one of the, as we can see here, that is one of the things, architectural additions that were done at that time. Then comes the use of lime mortar in the construction of buildings and houses altered the building techniques. So also one more thing was added, that now is the time during that period of Delhi Sultanate that lime mortar was basically used in the construction of buildings, and houses altered the building techniques. So these are the two very important things that were added into the architectural thing during the time of Delhi Sultanate. I hope you are all writing all these points. Third one is the development of the true arcs was important feature of the architectural style of the period. So as if you ever visit to Qutub complex, and you will see the architectural design that you can see in this area, and most of the kings have created a lot of different type of things in the Qutub complex, so you will find them to be presented in the form of arc and dome. Let's read further. So initially they transformed temples and other ruined sites into mosques. For example, the Quwwat-ul-Islam Mosque near Qutub Minar in Delhi was erected from materials salvaged from the destruction of several Hindu and Jain temples. So if we talk about the structures that you will find in the Qutub complex, this is also another thing that you will find, that most of the things like Qutub Minar, like the Quwwatul Islam Mosque, you will find that there were several instructions or several evidences of being the Hindu and Jain temples, but it were particularly transferred or translated into the Persians and other languages as well, and lot of work had been done. So these are clear evidence you can see, and this is particularly the transformed temples that are under the ruin sites into the mosque. Do remember that the first mosque of North India was Quwwatul Islam Mosque, and that was basically in Delhi. But if we talk about the first mosque of our country, so that is the Cheraman Mosque, that is in Kerala. With the arrival of artisans from West Asia, the arc and dome began to show up with precision and perfection. Gradually, local artisans also acquired the skills. So as soon as the sultans were taking care of this country, so at that time the artisans were coming from West Asia, and they started creating their own structures. And the skillful workers who are living in this country only, they also started making the things according to that. The tomb of Balban has the first real arc, while the Alai Darwaza, erected by Alauddin Khilji as an entrance of Quwwatul Islam Mosque, has the first true dome. And do remember that Alauddin Khilji was also ambitious in erecting another type of structure equivalent to Qutub Minar, that was Alai Minar, but he was not successful as he died before completing it. Do you remember Qutub Minar was basically started by Qutubuddin Aibak but completed by Iltutmish, and later some more stories were added to it by Firoz Shah Tughlaq, Sikandar Lodi, and the Britishers renovated it. Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq added Tughlaqabad to Delhi, and also Tughlaqabad was the capital of Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq or the Tughlaq dynasty. Tughlaqabad is nothing but a city in the Delhi only, as during the time of Delhi Sultanate, different type of cities are also formed in Delhi. Like Alauddin Khilji formed a city of Siri. So Siri was the Siri fort was created by Alauddin Khilji. You can still see the evidence or the remains of Siri Fort in IIT Delhi, and apart from that in the area of Hauj Khas. Now, apart from that, do remember that lot of different cities are built in Delhi and they were called the capitals. Like Siri was the capital, Tughlaqabad was the capital. Later, Humayun also built the Deen Panna city that was based as the capital city of Humayun. Muhammad bin Tughlaq added Jahan Panaha to Delhi. Muhammad bin Tughlaq was the king of Delhi and he acquired the throne from his father Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq. Firoz Shah Tughlaq added Firozabad to Delhi and also created Firoz Shah Kotla. So that is another city built in the city of Delhi. Then Muhammad bin Tughlaq built the tomb of Ghiyasuddin on a high platform, and that is basically you can find in Tughlaqabad fort. After Tughlaq, Sikandar Lodi constructed Jama Masjid in Agra, and it is the first structure in the middle of garden. So if we talk about Lodis, so Lodis are also very famous for creating the domes structure in our country, especially in Delhi. And one of them was the Sikandar Lodi. Sikandar Lodi constructed Jama Masjid in Agra. Sikandar Lodi is also the same person who built the city of Agra. Yes, do remember this thing. Agra was not built by Akbar, but Agra was built by Sikandar Lodi, and later was also transferred as the capital because Sikandar Lodi was in a dispute with the Gwalior, with the king of Gwalior, and that is why he had to create a particular garrison in Agra, and later he transferred it as a capital as well. So these are some of the other things and structures formed at that time. Do remember about all of them. Let's read further. So music during Delhi Sultanate. This is really important, guys. The important phase in the development of music during this period belongs to the time of Amir Khusro. As I was saying, he was the person who started the Qawwali system. Amir Khusro was the first to describe Kashmir as Eden on earth, as I was saying. He proclaimed himself as Totia-i-Hind or Parrot of India, but the thing is that he himself did not proclaim it. Alauddin Khilji was the person who said about him that he is famously known as Totia-i-Hind or Parrot of India. He was contemporary of Jalaluddin Khilji, Alauddin Khilji, Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, as I was saying. So he had seen a lot of kings during his tenure, and you can see that he had seen three different empires. He started his career during the Ghulam dynasty, during the end period of Ghulam dynasty, and during the whole Khilji dynasty, and remained till Tughlaq dynasty, starting of Tughlaq dynasty. He witnessed rule of 8 sultans. It is during this period that the Qawwali style is said to have developed. He is also credited for the development of many modern ragas like Eman, Gora and Sanam. He is credited with the creation of new musical instrument, the sitar, that was a combination of Indian veena and the Iranian tambura. New musical instruments such as sarangi and rabab were introduced during this period. Raja Mansingh of Gwalior was a great lover of music. He encouraged the composition of great musical work called Man Kautuahal. So that was all done during the time of Delhi Sultanate, and all these were the developments in the terms of music. Do remember Amir Khusro also developed the tabla. So all these things happened during the time of Delhi Sultanate. Let's read further, guys. So society under Delhi Sultanate. So the civilization of the Delhi Sultanate was split into 4 basic groups: nobles, priests, town people, and peasants. Nobles included Sultan and his relatives, courtiers and holders of Iqta, Hindu and Muslim chieftains, merchants, bankers, etc. Almost all the wealth and power were concentrated in this group. They lived in luxury and style. So this was all done during this time. Brahmins and ulemas made up the second group of priests. Brahmins and ulemas were both awarded tax-free land grants, making them wealthy and influential throughout much of the Sultanate period, save under Alauddin Khilji. The influence of ulema was so strong that it frequently impacted the sultan's policy. So I hope this point is really clear to all of you, that basically there were four different type of basic people: nobles, priests, town people, and peasants. And as I was saying earlier also, the king, for a king, he has to keep happy all these people. Why? Because if any kind of rebellion happen from anyone, it will impact his kingship. So nobles included Sultan and his relatives, and all the other peoples are basically called the nobles. And these positions are really important, and that is why they were also given iktas. Then comes the Brahmins and ulemas, and both of them have to be kept tax free, and grants have to be granted to them, as because they are the religious leaders. And if they particularly create any kind of rebellion against the king, then that will be very negative for the king, and it will not be the king will not be able to continue further. That is why we see that lot of kings are running according to the ulemas, like Aurangzeb. But if there are certain exceptions also, like Akbar was an exception. Apart from that, if we talk about Muhammad bin Tughlaq, he was also a kind of a secular person and always had a dispute with the ulemas. So there are certain examples as well, and this is the all the society of that time that was created. Now let's read further. The town people included urban wealthy merchants, traders, and artisans. Since nobles and merchants lived in towns, they gradually become centers of administration and military. Sufi saints' homes become pilgrimage destinations. In metropolitan areas, there was a tendency of artisan communities, with weavers living in the weavers' colony and goldsmiths residing in the goldsmiths' colony. International trade was thriving. The state paid royal karkhanas to produce things. So do remember, all these things basically happened at that time, and all this is the type of way in which the people of that time were living. Like you can see that if you are a goldsmith, you are living in a goldsmith colony. If you are a weaver, you are living in a weaver's colony. So this is a type of a society that was created at that time, and the nobles and merchants lives in towns because they are more influential people at that time. So this was the society of Delhi Sultanate. Let's read further. The lowest stratum of the society of Delhi Sultanate was peasants, that is farmers. They lived in villages, paid taxes to state as land revenue. A change in dynasty generally did not brought any changes in their lives. That is a kind of a situation for common people these days in the present situation. There was a rigid caste system, intercaste marriage, and dining got totally prohibited. So these are the things that were happening in the peasant forms and the things at that time. Hindu and Muslims inspired each other cultures and practices. Those who converted to Islam maintained their previous traditions, and so Indian composite culture was established. And also, all the particular people has also to go through the jizya taxes also, who were Hindus living in these particular societies. So that was all about the society, the literature, the music, the other things related to the Delhi Sultanate. And I hope you get to know a lot of things related to it, and it will also make you fantasize that how was the society of Delhi Sultanate. In the next session, when I will meet you, I will tell you different stories related to the medieval history, related to the Delhi Sultanate, related to how the invaders came to our country, and we will see that what we can learn from them. And till the time we meet, bye bye. Take care, everyone, and see you soon.